What if Heracles refused the 12 labors? In the annals of Greek mythology, Heracles, known to the Romans as Hercules, is a name synonymous with strength, heroism, and redemption. Sentenced to complete 12 impossible labors to atone for a tragic crime, his story is one of suffering and glory. But what if Heracles had chosen another path? What if, instead of submitting to the will of King Eurystheus and the gods who decreed his punishment, Heracles defied fate itself? What if he said no? The moment of defiance. It begins not with a roar, but a whisper. Heracles stands before Eurystheus, the cowardly king hiding behind his throne, flanked by heralds bearing the decree of Hera. 12 labors, each more harrowing than the last. Atonement, they claim, for the madness Hera induced, which led Heracles to slay his own wife and children. But Heracles, still reeling from grief, does not bow. He stares down Eurystheus, his fists clenched, his heart pounding not from rage, but clarity. "You would see me grovel to the gods who cursed me?" he asks. The room grows silent. "I will not be your tool. I will not play your game." He turns and walks away. The halls of Mycenae echo with gasps. The hero has refused the labors. The price of rebellion, the gods are not forgiving. Hera, incensed by his defiance, sends serpents to strangle him in his sleep. But Heracles does not sleep. He wrestles the creatures and casts them into the sea. Apollo denies him guidance. Athena turns her back. Zeus watches with stern, uncertain eyes. Stripped of divine favor, hunted by agents of the Olympian court, Heracles becomes a fugitive. But he is not alone. Others begin to question the divine order. First comes Iphitus, a prince and former admirer of Heracles. He sees the injustice not in Heracles' crime, but in the punishment. Then Alcmene, Heracles' mortal mother, who begins speaking openly of Hera's cruelty and Zeus's hypocrisy. The Olympians send omens to silence her. She does not flinch. Whispers turn into murmurs. Murmurs become movement. Heracles is no longer a hero on trial. He is a symbol of rebellion. The path of a new hero. Instead of laboring for a corrupt king, Heracles travels the Greek world as a rogue protector. In Nemea, where he would have slain the lion to earn his first labor, he instead warns villagers of its approach and trains them to fight as one. The lion falls not to one man's might, but to collective courage. In Lerna, instead of hunting the Hydra alone, he gathers exiles and engineers. They study the beast, learning its biology. Fire and strategy win the day, and the Hydra's regenerative secrets inspire new forms of medicine. Each labor becomes a mission of liberation. Not a punishment, but a revolution. The rise of the broken pantheon. The gods begin to panic. Temples are abandoned. Priests speak of dreams where Heracles ascends not to Olympus but replaces it. Hera sends monsters. Zeus forbids the mention of his son in the halls of the divine. But the other gods stir uneasily. Hephaestus, long the outcast, begins crafting new tools for mortals. Hestia, goddess of the hearth, listens to mortal prayers instead of Olympian commands. Even Artemis, once aloof, watches Heracles from the shadows, intrigued by a hero who walks without divine leash. Heracles, in turn, finds wisdom not in Olympus, but among the people. He breaks the chains of Prometheus, seeks counsel from Medusa in exile, and learns lost Titan lore from Oceanus at the edge of the world. Each step draws him further from being a mere hero. He is becoming a legend. The 13th trial. Eventually, the gods declare war. Olympus darkens. Thunderstorms rage. Hera rides into battle on a chariot pulled by peacocks, wielding madness itself as a weapon. Ares commands armies of demigods, each born to slay Heracles. But Heracles does not stand alone. Beside him is Iphitus, bearing a shield inscribed with every name Hera has cursed. Alcmene calls upon the ancestors of men to rise. Athena, at last ashamed, lays down her helm and joins the cause. The battle that follows splits the heavens. Mount Olympus itself cracks. The river Styx runs red. At the heart of it all, Heracles confronts Zeus. "Why do you fear me, father?" "Because you remind me of what I failed to become." They fight, not just with fists and lightning, but with memory, with grief, with destiny. And in the end, Heracles refuses to kill Zeus. Enough blood has been spilled for pride. Zeus kneels. A new order of heroes. With Olympus humbled, Heracles proposes a new way. The gods will no longer rule from above, but walk among mortals. Each will choose a mortal companion to learn from and to teach. Worship will not be demanded, but earned. The 12 labors become something else entirely, a guidebook, a legend, not of penance, but of purpose. Children tell tales not of a Hercules who suffered, but of one who said no, who taught monsters and men alike that strength means nothing without choice, legacy beyond Olympus. In this world, Hercules does not ascend to the stars. He remains on Earth growing old, teaching loving, building a school for heroes not born of prophecy but shaped by empathy. When he dies, no pyre is lit, no thunder echoes, only silence. And then a spark, because his legacy is not in flames or thrones. It is in every mortal who dares to choose their own path. Hercules refused the labors, and in doing so, he labored for something far greater: freedom. The spark that would not die. That spark, born not from godhood but from mortal courage, did not fade. It passed from hand to hand, unseen yet undeniable. Farmers whispered the tale of Hercules to their children, not to instill fear, but to inspire resilience. Poets etched verses into stone and skin, retelling how strength without compassion was tyranny, and how even a god could change. The circle of flame. From the ashes of Olympus's fall, Heracles' companions, mortal and divine, founded the circle of flame. Not a temple, not a court. A gathering place where voices held equal weight, where gods debated beside shepherds and titans walked beside tinkers. Prometheus took a seat there, beside Athena, Mnemosyne, and Thera, now an old woman with eyes like distant stars. Even Medusa came, no longer hidden, her visage etched into banners as a symbol of truth unfeared. And it was here the labors were rewritten again. Not just tasks, not trials, but teachings: slay the beast within, not just the one outside. Cleanse the stables of hate, wrestle the lion of grief and let it live, the sleeping Titan. But below, in the hidden places of the world, the eye of Cronus had not shut. The chaos of Olympus's humbling had loosed ancient bindings. In the shifting void of Tartarus, the timekeepers stirred, whispering of the Chronos path, a fractured timeline in which freedom was a lie and the age of the Titans reigned eternal. A child was born under strange stars, bearing both the blood of Gaia and the breath of the void. Neither fully Titan nor mortal, she dreamed in languages that had no sound. They called her Elira. Raised by the circle, taught in the school Heracles built, she felt the tremor before any god could speak of it. The time fracture spread like frost over fate, and it would fall to her to decide whether the future belonged to the gods, the Titans, or something wholly new. Toward the last labor. The story does not end in battle, it never truly ends. But beyond the mountains of memory and the oceans of oblivion, Elira would walk the path of Heracles, not repeating his steps, but challenging them. Because even freedom once won must be chosen again. Each age must forge its own labors. Each soul must spark its own fire.